Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel on Wednesday afternoon, where we are, T minus 9 days? Can't even remember now until the transfer window closes. Oh, look, and Reggie the rat bag getting involved in transfer negotiations and news. Sorry, that wasn't planned. Anyway, we'll carry on. I'm on today just to give you guys a little bit of clarity, hopefully, on the Newcastle situation. We've learnt in the last sort of 12 hours or so that Newcastle are, of course, looking elsewhere. Sorry, we've known for a while that they're looking elsewhere, but finally the identity of the players that Newcastle are looking at, if their move for Marc Guehi falls through, have now become available, and we can report those. So I'm sure you saw, some of you maybe saw from David Ornstein in The Athletic last night, and I've had some clarity this morning myself, that Newcastle have actually opened talks with Bayer Leverkusen in the shape of an inquiry over their defender Edmond Tapsoba. Now, there seems to be different information I'm getting on this. I'm hearing from sources in Germany that one, the player's not for sale, and two, he's actually given them their word already that he plans to stay this summer. But from my own sources on the ground here in the northeast, I'm told that Newcastle have made an inquiry and some talks have taken place behind the scenes regarding the availability of the Burkina Faso international defender. Top quality player, obviously part of that Bayer Leverkusen team last season that went the entire Bundesliga season without losing a game. Of course, disappointing for him the way things finished in the Europa League final, Europa League final, should I say, when they lost out 3-0 to Atalanta. But look, clearly a class act, clearly someone who would improve that Newcastle starting 11, and you can see why Paul Mitchell, Eddie Howe et al. Are interested in his services. The other player that's been mentioned to me in the last 12 hours or so is Axel Disasi, the Chelsea central defender. Now, he was actually a player that was linked with Newcastle last summer. I remember I was actually out in Philadelphia at the time covering Newcastle on their pre-season tour, and I was told then he wasn't one that they were keen on. However, he's had a year under his belt with Chelsea in the Premier League. He played 40 odd games last season, scored a number of goals, and looked like a real physical presence for a real stuttering Chelsea team, probably one of their better players, you would say, last season. And crucially, he knows Paul Mitchell well, or Paul Mitchell knows him well from their time together at Monaco, so there's a clear link there. So that's the identity of two of the players Newcastle are looking at. I believe, look, they've had previous interest in Joe Gomez, but I think that would be a non-starter this window. And then the other one I think that they have tentatively looked at as well is Trevor Chalobah. You know, you speak to most Chelsea supporters, and I think they would rather keep Chalobah than Disasi, because they're not huge fans of Disasi. He's a powerful central defender, perhaps not so good on the ball. So, look, that's what I'm hearing, that Newcastle are now exploring moves for those two. However, their move, I'm told from separate sources, for Marc Guehi remains open and on the table, and there's still a hope that Newcastle can reach an agreement with Crystal Palace to push what is becoming a saga through. Really, I'm probably fed up talking about it, and if I had £1 myself for every person that has asked me, are we getting Guehi, from Saturday until now, I think I could have bought Marc Guehi myself. It's been incessant, and I can understand your guys' frustration, because it really is something that's dragged on to a point now where if Newcastle do get a deal for Guehi done, it probably won't be with a fanfare, you know, and you'll be breaking your club record transfer fee to sign him, and it'll probably be, you know, right, we're done with a sense of relief that it's finally over the line. So, look, I think important not to read a huge amount into the fact Newcastle are looking elsewhere. It's totally understandable they are doing so. To what level, I'm not too sure. They've inquired to Chelsea over Disasi. I'm told some talks have taken place over Tapsoba, but as I've touched on already, other sources are telling me he's not for sale, and he's already privately told Bayer Leverkusen that he'll stay this summer. So you'll ask me, is this a ploy? Is this a ploy from Newcastle to try and get Crystal Palace to hurry along? Perhaps, maybe to try and get them to close that gap in valuation that they've got, and it sounds like it's quite a small valuation gap. But I'm getting told that despite Crystal Palace's news that Crystal Palace have agreed a fee with Fulham for Joachim Andersen last night, Crystal Palace's other central defender. 2 of the 3, they play with 3 at the back. Despite that agreement now being in place and it looking very likely that Andersen is going to Fulham in a £30 million bid, I am told that that doesn't have an effect on Marc Guehi's potential move to Newcastle United. So, read into that as you will, but I think it's very easy for people to assume that because Anderson's now going to Palace, Guehi will not be going to Newcastle. But from what I'm hearing, Guehi could still go to Newcastle, Andersen could go to Fulham, Palace could pocket around £100 million and they can go out and buy a couple of central defenders of their own while still having a huge profit that they can bank. So look, I think it's reaching what I'm going to call the tipping point. I think it's that point in negotiations where there's only a week or so left of the transfer window and Newcastle know they need a central defender. I can put my money on it right now that Newcastle will 100% sign a central defender this window. It's just who. Will it be Guehi, the number 1 target? Will it be Tapsoba? Also sounds like it'll be a difficult deal to do, but they're exploring it. Or will it be Disasi, who's probably the most available out of the 3 of those? Will it be someone else? But it's reached that point, I think, for Newcastle where talks have been taking place with Crystal Palace for 2 weeks now. Everyone's getting frustrated. I think Newcastle themselves getting frustrated, and they know they're at a stage where they can't let this drag on and leave themselves in a situation where they go into deadline day without a central defender and they have to pay way over the odds, which probably they're doing this for Guehi anyway, but they feel that he's worth it. So look, I hope that's cleared up the situation up a little bit for you guys. It's an ever moving story, this. By the time you see this, the news might have moved on. Things are changing a lot. But I think it shows just how fluid the situation is, that Newcastle are now looking elsewhere, but they have still got Guehi in their sights, and as I'm told, that deal is still on. Well, not so much on, but it's not off, and their offer remains on the table, and there's still a hope from Newcastle's side they can get it done. And there is a feeling from people involved in the deal, involved in negotiations, that Crystal Palace may just say, hang on, let's come to an agreement here. It's a lot of money, because they've done similar with Andersen. I think they wanted originally 40 million from Fulham, and eventually settled on just over 30, 32, 33. So I think there's a feeling from people involved in negotiations with Guehi, and hopefully from Newcastle's side that there's a similar situation here, and Crystal Palace can maybe climb down a little bit, and that standoff will end, and Newcastle can get their number 1 target. So look, I've been saying for a week now they're looking at other targets. Finally now we've got the names in the shape of Tapsoba and Disasi. We'll see how far they progress, but I would not say that's an end for Marc Guehi. I would say that deal is very much still alive, but it's coming to that point where it's crucial. It's a tipping point, and Newcastle need to make a decision on what they're going to do. So anyway, guys, leave your comments below. Subscribe if you haven't done already. Should have mentioned that earlier, just reminded myself. And I will see you on the next one. And from me and this guy, he's fallen asleep, but from me and this guy, see you in the next one. Say bye, Reg.